So I'm Susanna, I'm the CEO of Action Tutoring.
So I'm Hannah Martin, and I'm the Curriculum Manager at Action Tutoring.
I'm Charlie Young, I'm CEO and co-founder of the Girls Network. We're a mentoring charity for teenage girls from the disadvantaged communities.
Hi, I'm Vigil, I'm from Reach Out, I'm the Programme Director there, and we're also a mentoring charity for young people across London, Manchester.
I'm Pete, I'm the Chief Executive.
I'm Chief Executive of another mentoring charity which works with
I'm Claire Hill, Standards Director at Inspiration Trust, which is a medium-sized maths industry.
I'm Anna Pedrosa. I run Pedrosa Communications, and some of our clients are charities, and we help them to engage with schools.
I'm Caroline Doherty. I'm Head of External Relations at the Key. Over half the schools in England are in membership of one of our services. We provide support and information for school leaders, give them knowledge to act. Previously, I was Education Campaign Manager at Business in the Community, ran a lot of school partnerships, particularly with schools in deprived areas. So that's probably where I earned my partnership chops, and I've been on there for 10 years.
I'm Nathan Sansom, I'm the Chief Executive of the Access Project, and we support bright disadvantaged young people to get to the top universities through a mix of tutoring and mentoring support.
I'm Chris Wilson, I am CEO at the Brilliant Club, which is an education charity which recruits, trains and places PhD tutors, either as part-time tutors in schools through the Scholars Programme or as full-time teacher trainees through researchers in schools.
I'm Anna Page, I'm Director of Strategy and Performance at United Learning. We are a large schools group. We've got both academies and independent schools, and we are, broadly speaking, spread across the whole country.
Hi, I'm Kate Bowen-Viner. I'm a Senior Associate at the Centre for Education and Youth.
I'm Alex Robertson, and I'm an Associate at the Centre for Education and Youth as well.
I am Charlie. I work in the Marketing and Communications team at Action Tutoring.
I'm Alice. I'm the London Manager at Action Tutoring.
I'm Stephen. I'm one of the Senior Partnership Officers at Aspire HE. It's a slightly different angle, I think, from quite a few people in the room. So we're part of the National Collaborative Outreach Programme. It's a national project to try and support progression to higher education. We're a network based in Wolverhampton. Work quite closely with CfEY and some of our competitors.
Hi, I'm Matthew Brooker. Like Stephen, not the CEO. I am a senior leader at the Galaxy Trust, which is a medium-sized non-giving trust in Dartford.
Hi, I'm Sarah Gaines. I'm Head of Communications and Challenge Partners, and we're a national network of schools, and we share excellent practice school to school through our programme.
Hello, I'm Vivian. I have several hats. I'm a leadership consultant, but I think I'm mostly here for my other two parts, which is co-founder and strategic leader of RunNet, a grassroots social media organisation that supports women leaders in education and is global now. And I'm Vice President of the Charter Page of Teaching.
Hello, I'm Sophie Nichol. I'm a teacher at Plumcroft Primary School in Woolwich, and my role is curriculum and enrichment, and I tend to do a lot of applications for grants as part of my role as well, at various charities and bodies.
I'm Joy. I'm a regional lead for Future First. We work with schools and colleges across the UK to support them to build alumni networks and use one students and volunteers to support their students.
Brilliant. Thank you. Cool.
So sorry, I should have said that I'm also here on behalf of the Teacher Development Trust and the Trust as well.
Hopefully that's given you all a flavour and a sense of the richness of the people that we've got in the room here today. And we're going to kick off with the first question around how we actually start relationships between schools and charities, and how we can get in touch with each other. And one of the things I often hear is I'll go and meet a school and they go, "Oh, how come I didn't hear about you 3 years ago?" And I sit there thinking, we've been emailing you or trying to contact you for the last 3 years. How has this not got through? And for us, we found that word of mouth recommendation is probably the most powerful way of getting in touch with new schools. But that does take quite a long time. and even then getting those set-up meetings established, it can be quite a long lead-in to do that. But yet, when schools find out about what we do, we normally find they're fairly interested. And I suspect that's a similar story for others. So we're really interested in what methods of communications really work for schools in order to pick up on programs like this, but also really keen to hear from the charity side, what have you found has been really successful in making that initial inroad so that people can actually hear about your work. I don't know if anyone wants to be brave and kick off with some thoughts or some practical examples of things they've seen working really well.
I can tell you what we do, and that seems to work. So I agree that word of mouth seems to be the thing that works for us best. Calling seems to take a lot of time, and it isn't always that successful. So what we found helpful has been recommendations from people that schools already trust, be that another head teacher they know, and actually head teacher to head teacher recommendation has been one of the most powerful things. But also governors or local authorities, combined authorities that schools are working with, has been a really useful route into schools and meetings and positions.
How do you actually get them to do that? So an enthusiastic head says, "Oh yes, I'll recommend you." How do you see that through?
We sometimes incentivized it, so you can have X number of free places in the program if you recommend us to X number of their teachers. That sometimes worked really well. Often, actually, we felt we haven't needed to. We've been quite lucky where we've found teachers that just sort of really want us to do something. Sometimes we also don't know the way, so it's a bit further down the line. But if we've got school that's sort of interested, recommending they speak to schools we already work with. That's been quite helpful as well.
I would echo that from the school's perspective, that you often get so much contact from different organisations, and it's very difficult to understand which are the ones that are going to be useful and high quality. And I know that our schools, and in terms of mat leads as well, we're far more likely to look at something, engage with that, and continue that conversation if it comes to a recommendation from someone else that we know. I would quite often, if I think there's an organisation that might benefit the schools, make sure that that contact comes through me, rather than directing people straight to principals if I think that it's an organisation that's going to be beneficial, because I know that busy principals might just ignore it otherwise. Whereas I think that link, facilitating introductions and setting up contacts through networks is a really useful way of getting communications better lead to something.
What would help something stand out to you as something that might be valuable if you've got 10 or 15 organisations approaching you? And what are you looking for to help you make that quick decision about what you might want to explore?
And probably the most important thing is alignment in terms of values and priorities. So if it appears to be an organisation that is aligned with us in terms of ethos, that is also going to help us share goals, I think, are the key thing.
We have a similar kind of experience in terms of that referral from an existing partner. It's a really powerful thing. I'm interested a bit from the school side again, clearly the kind of who the messenger is really important. Are there particular times when you're more or less receptive to people approaching? Because that's one of the other things which is considered. We approach, to be honest, when we need to. I'm looking at it from your end and saying, when are they need to hear? Are there particular times that are good or bad?
I think once the year has begun, an academic year, sometimes it's really difficult for schools and the school leaders to kind of, no matter whether they should or not, they often don't have time to kind of stop, reflect, think, and maybe pursue new relationships and new partnerships. So I think often spring or summer term, if you're thinking about the next academic year, is a really good time, because that's when they're thinking about planning for next year, strategic planning for next year, but also financial planning. And I think that is the time, spring, summer, but then maybe going again towards the summer when things quieten down. It's a little bit different whether it's a secondary or primary, but avoiding exam season, SAT season, anything like that, because people just don't have the headspace to think about things. But in advance, or if it's autumn, having that conversation for the following year, which seems like it's so far in advance. But I think actually, once we get into the cycle of working in schools, really you have to plan to the next year ahead.
I would just reiterate that, narrow it down even more, and across all of the ranges of what we do. And previously, I was director of school partnerships at the Institute of Education, and November, March, June, July. Those are the periods when schools, teachers, leaders have got a little headspace.
I guess the other side of the coin we find that, I mean, I love it when schools want to meet in March to plan for the next academic year. Sometimes it's the other way around that we get the phone call in even January saying we're desperate for our year 11s, can you come in now? And it's quite last minute. So I'm also quite interested in how can we help more schools to be like you and have that longer term planning cycle in mind rather than sort of last minute panic if we need an intervention.
I guess it's aligning that moment of review or reflection that the school leadership might be doing about where there are areas of need that then your charities can offer solutions or support to. So when are those things fresh and people open to new thinking about them and not kind of racing.
So I think just to echo lots of that, I think there's alignment is really important. And then what we're doing is looking at kind of what is the evidence that this will be better than anything else we've heard about or anything we could do ourselves. And how easy is it going to be to engage in it? Is it going to be something that we're going to have to rejig what we do in order to fit what we're being offered? And if the answer to that is yes, is it definitely going to be worth it? And quite a lot of things I think that come our way fall into that trap of this just isn't, it looks great, but it just isn't going to quite fit with how we do things. And maybe it lands at a time when we don't have the space to think about whether we're able to do that or not. And then I think that, definitely the point about cost. So even within a budget like that, generally, for most schools, the vast amount of money is committed up front. Whatever point in the year you're talking about, it's committed. So either the cost is small enough that you can absorb it when you're thinking about next year's budget, or potentially in year because it's sufficiently high priority that you would choose to do that over something else. Or if it's not, it's definitely going to be in the next year. And if it's unaffordable in 1 year, what's going to be different to make it unaffordable and make it affordable the next year? And that I think is just an ongoing challenge. And then you're going to have to keep spending that money year on year, or is there actually we're building capacity that the school that you could gradually reduce the amount of money you spend on it up from 1 year to the next. So, and individual schools are making so for us as a trust that is national, often charities offers are quite locally focused. So there's relatively little that comes to us that can really work across all our schools. And so then that's a judgment that has to be made both at a local level by the school and then by the charity, sometimes by the charity nationally.
We talked quite a bit about recommendations and face-to-face. Increasing number of schools on social media. I'd be really interested to hear if anyone's had any success connecting schools and charities through that kind of medium, or even successes with events, conferences, or would the general consensus be word of mouth recommendation? That's the silver bullet.
We've had quite a bit of success just tweeting schools and then also tweeting schools we currently work with in the local area to say we work well with them, can we set up a call? We've set up quite a few calls in that way, but it depends who reads the tweet and how active they are.
I think it depends. I think it's not that one tactic is the only tactic you should use. If you were to ask businesses, many businesses would say that word of mouth is incredibly important. And equally, for schools and colleges, open days, that opportunity to meet people face to face is a really important element. And that's because the point we get to there is, there's a real person recommending us. But in the marketing ecosystem, social media or events, and a number of other things, it's still really important maintaining the brand and maintaining awareness. And what's important is to look at how much resource you're allocating as a charity to different elements of that strategy. You don't want to be allocating tons and tons of money into, say, awareness raising, and it's not really going to generate any relief. Because we do want to be allocating more resource to things that are going to generate word of mouth. But I think with charities, I know the Teacher Development Trust and archives, we've looked quite a lot at trying to work out what are the things that are really definitely working and that help us with our kind of audience journey from, oh, I think I might have heard of them, to, oh, my friends just recommended that, I've heard of them before, let's do it. So understanding that there's lots of tactics and you can choose which to do, and also understanding how you move your audience from one part of their journey with you, potentially from awareness to engagement to actually doing something, is important as well. And then for charity, understanding how much resource you're allocating at each stage, I think is fundamental.
I think social media is quite interesting. Often if we have maybe an organisation's come onto our radar or we've had a contact, might well look at social media to get a bit more of an understanding of them, what kind of things they're working on, who appears to be engaged with them, what kind of impact they appear to be having, what kind of events are taking place. So actually, that social media profile is really important because it's another way that organisations might understand more about you.
And it can be a way, I guess, to present things like the video of somebody who's used the charity services and had a great experience, or a child, or create that content that you can put on social media so people aren't coming to the event or don't know somebody face to face that you have that conversation.
It sort of provides that short, sharp snippet of information rather than sort of having a 25-minute presentation, which is lovely. That 52 minutes would be wonderful, just go, oh, okay, so the evidence is there in practice, I can see it working, okay, you can make a video, look at the video, but it's, at the end of the day, you can see it happening in front of you rather than sort of waiting or going to observe in a different school or go and have like a 25-minute, 2-hour meeting, whatever you need to do, a video presentation, at least it's there and then in front of you. Again, it does depend on the school and the nature of what they use, social media platforms, whether they do rely on the word of mouth. If we're looking in maybe some other 95 areas, what is their social media? Like, is that an avenue to type in, or is it, let's look at different avenues here?
Of course, you can have word of mouth on social media and the video and a teacher talking about the impact, and maybe like a kind of way of bringing it through.
And once you've got that foot in the door, somebody's agreed to actually meet with you, we're really interested in what both sides are looking for to make it a success in terms of what school demographics or characteristics might the charity be looking for that would give you confidence this is going to work. And from the school side, if you're looking at bringing in an intervention, what's going through your mind in terms of the resource that you're thinking in place to make it a success.
So one thought on what we're talking about, I think most of what we're talking about is essentially the delivery of the service, which isn't that different in its fundamentals to a private sector delivery of a service, in that you need really clear kind of expectations on both sides. What is it you're going to get, and what are you going to have to do in order to get that on both sides? And making sure you're really clear up front what those are, so that you don't get nasty surprises later on when someone thinks, oh yeah, no, this was going to work brilliantly and I wasn't going to have to do anything. Yeah. Suddenly, actually, no, it's not going to work brilliantly because we were expecting you to make sure that, you know, X people turned up at a particular point in time, or, you know, whatever that looks like. And then there are some, certainly for us, there are some things we're engaging which are much more of a kind of genuine partnership, where we are involved at some level in the kind of design of what's happening. And there we want to be able to shape it, and we want to kind of be involved in what it looks like from the beginning. And I think being clear about which of those spaces you're in, and then acting kind of in accordance with the rules of that space is really important. And, you know, not mistaking being in one or the other.
I think it's really interesting talking about space, because I commissioned a report at the Institute about universities and school partnerships. And I think there's a lot of similarity in it. And there's been a lot of research done into saying we need a third space. Because there's the school space and how the school works, there's how the charity works. And as Anna was saying, there is also a third space that you need clarity over what that looks like, because that's new, that's a bit different, depending on which school and which charity you're working in. And clarity on which of those three spaces, and then in that third space, what for that partnership at this time, what that looks like, and what its values are, what it's trying to achieve, who contributes what, to what level, percentage. Where they go wrong is the two school charity spaces not actually finding a mesh.
Yeah.
And so it's that fitting, that matrix in the middle that is the kind of sweet spot that we're trying to find.
And that leads on really nicely to the next question, so this is super preemptive this. Really interested in how far people go in adapting on both sides, how far you would go to adapt your programme if the ultimate aim is serving the needs of the pupils. How far do schools want charities to adapt? How far are the charities willing to go to bend their model in order to meet those needs?
We found it really invaluable to involve our partner schools at every level. So when we're designing a programme, we have a lead practitioner who is the senior leader or a trustee or someone. So because they bring that unique perspective from schools. So they're involved at our board level, they're involved at EAG level, and they're involved as we design the programme, putting their ideas forward, and they set the bar high. So if we're saying we want to capture all the areas of excellence that are going on in our partner schools, it can't be enough that school is outstanding and want to share what they're doing in maths. We are, the senior leaders will be saying, well, it has to be exceptional because we'll be asking people to travel around the country to come and find out about it. So that, their drive is really an essential part of the partnership, really. But involving them at every level really makes a difference.
And how do you go about doing that? Is that meetings, is it phone calls, is it over email? That's obviously quite time consuming.
Yeah, it is. I'm, you know, we are relying on schools being very committed and able to release a senior leader who would be involved perhaps in a steering group that meets 4 times a year, but also available on email and on the phone as we go along. You know, it's the charity that's staff that are doing the work, but it's that input that's really valuable at every stage, so that we're not kind of going up in one direction thinking this is going to really help when they think we really need to be doing this.
I think as a charity it matters understanding what bit of your programme is the bit that makes the real difference and the real impact you're trying to have. So for us, we believe in the importance of a mentoring relationship in a period of time for developing that. So when we've worked with schools who've wanted to sort of scrap all the mentors and interesting one-off events, we've been quite cautious about that, because yes, that can add value, but most of our work and our sort of research behind it is about that long-term relationship. And so for us, that's kind of the way we think, well, that's what we deliver, and so we're not going to negotiate, but then we can flex in other elements as long as we know that we will have the impact that we're setting up to have with that mentoring. I think that's quite important in understanding what does and doesn't change depending on what we want to achieve.
I think that when you combine what Charlie said with what Anna said, I think it the nail on the head when she said that the importance is the clarity over the issue of to what extent is this a bespoke partnership and to what extent is this the service of a very clearly parametered service. It's essential, and I think that where we have gone wrong when the charity was a lot younger was implying that it was more bespoke than it actually was in order to work with the school, and the school's expectations not being met because in actual fact what we were trying to convey was that the programme was completely standardised and there was no room for manoeuvre whatsoever. And I think one really simple thing for charities to consider in terms of how they structure themselves is whether or not the people who are responsible for establishing the school partnerships are the same people responsible for delivering them. Because if you set that up correctly, you really limit the risk of over-promising and under-delivering, because those people are going to be responsible for the delivery as well. And that's how we sort of accidentally ended up structuring our organisation. But I think it's been to our advantage, because you haven't had a team of outward-facing school partnership development people who will go in and promise the earth, and then a group of slightly upset, beat-upon deliverers who simply can't meet the expectations that have been set out. And that just leads to disappointment on both sides.
And that's about how you articulate what you do clearly enough, so you don't just say anything and everything you want us to do, and leave sort of confusion there. Sometimes maybe it's about having a menu of things that you could perfectly easily offer, or examples of what other schools have done to give people that kind of food for thought. At Business in the Community, we ran school partnerships between businesses and charities, and our role was very much as a broker in the middle, and that's what the companies were paying for, to support the relationship with the school, because they knew they needed somebody running around and making sure things happened. But the whole process began with a really detailed needs analysis that was led by the school, and the school being really honest about what their challenges were and the things that they wanted to improve across a really broad range of areas. And some schools could really work with that process and be really imaginative and creative, but other people needed more scaffolding to think through all of the different areas they could draw down on support, with back office and HR, but also with, things with children and employability activities and these sorts of things. So we just found we needed to give people the tool to help them think what it was they wanted to get out of the relationship, to make sure that they got it, and the support of that broker, making sure that things actually came off. Because you can have really great ideas and using, wouldn't this be wonderful, we can achieve the world together, but somebody needs to keep that going.
The critical thing, is communication. Because actually what's been said, with what the experiences we've had partnerships where it's been very clear we're offering this specific programme, this is what it is, this is what the cost will be, this is what you need to decide whether you want to do or not. But also had partnership work with organisations where we've developed things together, there's been more flexibility, it has been able to be more bespoke. And I think it's about that clarity of communication from the outset about what this is, so that everybody understands, but then setting up the communication channel going forward, which probably links into what you were just saying, Chris, about who is going to be the person who delivers. So actually, what is going to be our way of monitoring and sustaining this as we go forward? Is it the people who initially set up the partnership are going to be, or actually is somebody else now going to take the responsibility over sustaining the project?
And I think that there's that if you, as a charity, fall in between those two things. So you have a model that you believe in and standardise, and that's one of the reasons you're able to scale and to price it at an appropriate point. On one stand, or you're actually an organisation who really does come in and do something bespoke to the needs of schools. If you fall into the middle and you're kind of describing a programme that is a little bit bespoke and is a little bit not, what in effect you are saying to the school is, we don't really believe that this is the thing that actually works. And you might get some short-term wins from it because the school can fiddle around with it, but ultimately the losses you have, the lack of being able to talk about impact and compare impact across a number of programmes, and this sense from the school, implicit or otherwise, that actually you're not completely convinced that your model is the thing that is.
I think that's something we've actually got a lot bolder about over the years, and saying actually no, this is what we know works. We've done the evaluation and got the impact reports on this, and actually if the school wants to deviate off that, we're not convinced it's going to have the impact that we would want to see, and actually having confidence as a charity in what it is you're good at.
Sorry. I think as a school we know roughly what we would need from a charity, but we wouldn't know, I don't think I know any of these groups, I wouldn't know where to find that. It would be nice if there was a kind of form that I could fill in, saying, because most of the needs that we have are due to being short-staffed. We're actually not an academy, we're a local authority funded school, so our budget from central government is constantly being whittled down. So things that we could afford a few years ago, like extra staff around so we can go on trips, endless trips. And now we're having to take people out of class the whole time. So adults, mentors or adults that could go on trips with classes, things like that. I know straight away what we need. If there was a form I could fill in saying this is what we need, and then that form could be sent to everybody, and then anyone who could supply that would be able to contact me, because that there might be one person in this group who could, oh yeah, that could be part of our mentoring program that we could, and reading volunteers, of course, always. So kind of give up the schools having a way of contacting lots of different charities with what they need. Doesn't mean anyone has to change what they do, but there might just be someone there who could have a conversation and see if they could fit in with that. To kind of do it the other way around, schools sending out to everybody in one go.
I think just to mention is, so as part of the National Collaborative Outreach Programme, universities are being asked for this second part of our funding to set up something called outreach hubs. So it might be worth charities speaking to local higher education provider and seeing if there's support there to put on their outreach hub, and for schools to be looking at that as a resource of seeing all the local provision. So for example, we're just one of 29 networks, so in Wolverhampton we'd be looking for the charities operating in Wolverhampton, for example. We can be looking to signpost schools to the services there, and that should be a national picture. It's part of the second part of funding, so universities when higher education providers are just setting that up, so it might take a little bit of time, but the theory is that there'll be central kind of network to be able to signpost schools to.
Would that be, what part of the university would you be talking about? Education?
Yeah, it's outreach essentially. So it's a government funded outreach programme that I'm part of, and it's a national project in 29 networks across the country.
So University of Greenwich would have an outreach?
They either have the outreach of, there's a lead institution in each region, for example. So in Birmingham, for example, University of Birmingham is their lead institution, so they probably host the outreach hub, but it's a regional signposting, so it's kind of being built as it goes, but it just might sort of flagging that to everyone in the room.
Is it also one of the roles of the careers net?
Yeah.
The broker between schools and providers. The careers net.
And there are a few examples. I think Teach First has tried it with their intervention partners as well. I think a little bit, sort of Graham Duncan's organisation, Right Succeed, and they were using a similar model as well on a small scale and going into school looking at the needs and then signposting as well. Then there are a few examples where it's been done, but I think sort of
I just wondered if you had someone join us.
Yeah, I think I might move because
opportunity.
I can't really see it.
But it's not really taking a seat on the table, is it?
Move. Do you want me to introduce myself?
Yeah, that's fine. That'd be nice. Yeah. Fantastic.
I would recommend sitting next to Hannah.
Oh, no.
She's lovely.
Okay, now I feel like a bit more of a conversation. Yeah. So I am the founder, one of the co-founders actually, of UBU, and we're a social enterprise working across Tower Hamlets. And we work with primary school children, so starting from 5 years old. And the vision is to make sure children don't leave primary school thinking that gender and gender stereotypes limits their potential, career choices, life choices. Our focus is particularly young South Asian boys, Bangladeshi boys in Tower Hamlets, talking about mental health and having the vocabulary to talk about their emotions, but also getting loads of girls as well, young girls, to start thinking beyond Tower Hamlets. So that's currently what we're doing.
And how have you found being, like, how long have you been around for?
So we're quite new, and it's interesting. So we've been around for about, less than a year. So we've just done our pilot, and it's worked. Hooray! Yeah, that was cool. So what's worked really well, I suppose, when it comes to school partnerships is actually getting the teachers to be involved from the get-go, and we've co-created a curriculum with them. Sorry, I'm just fidgeting and it's just, I've had 3 cups of coffee. So co-creating the curriculum with them and designing it
it's been really good in terms of partnership and building that relationship, but also when it comes to, quite crudely, selling the work, because it's for teachers by teachers, and things such as things that you might not think about that, because I'm not a teacher in the classroom environment at the moment, doing 20-minute bursts, modular bursts that are quick and easy, that are going to hit their literacy targets as well as relationship studies. So it's been really useful in that sense. And I think working with local authorities, it can be a bit, some people might be like, oh, it's so long, but we're working really closely with Tower Hamlets and getting that link. And the thing, I think a trick that we might be missing is peer-to-peer support as well. Like, schools want to link in with other schools, but they just don't know how. So we're currently doing that. So it's really important that, for example, one of our schools is next to Museum of Childhood. Well, we need to start linking in. They don't talk to each other, and they're literally down the road. And it's small things like that that are really crucial, and having focus groups and getting the teachers involved and the parent from the offset in that community has been pivotal to kind of creating something that works. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that's really helpful. Thank you.
I think some of the things that we found that have been helpful, and sort of focusing back on starting relationships and maybe initial contact with schools and sort of around setting expectations, is we, like you're saying, trying to get in there very early, talking to schools as early as possible, giving ourselves big lead times on actually setting up programs, being very clear with schools about having a standardized program. This is how it is. There's no two ways about it. If it's not what you want, that's cool. We just don't have resource, and it's too complicated to start flexing it for different schools wanting slightly different things. We do our best to get straight to someone on SLT, ideally head teacher, executive principal, something like that. I think it's always helpful to get buy-in. Something I want to know is how people maintain relationships with those people in the room. That would be really helpful for us to know. We try and give them as few points of contact as possible within reach out. Like you were saying earlier, you don't want to have someone selling in the program and then switching it over to someone else and deliver something totally different. So we try and do that. And we try and give them a very clear timetable for the entirety of their relationship with us about what is going to be talked about when and what needs to be agreed when. So that schools have a kind of almost like a flow diagram of this conversation happens then. In 3 months' time, we're going to meet, come back in September, for example, and you need to have given us X, Y, Z, and we're going to give you A, B, C. We try and get it down to that thing so that at our end and at the school's end, we know what's coming, and it's as standardized as possible. So we're doing as little, the staff basically have as little deviation to kind of change, write different emails, different tools. This school talk about this, talk about that. It's the same everywhere as much as we can. It's not perfect. We're trying to do it. I don't want to visualize anything to add. This is a visual job.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that's developed over the last 2 years that I've been around anyway. And speaking to schools, as kind of everybody has said around the room so far, that seems to be what works, is tell us up front exactly what you need. And a big challenge, I guess, we found is staff time around providing data and that kind of thing. But again, sort of giving all the dates and the deadlines of when we need everything has made a massive difference. So we've pretty much in the last academic year had a big sort of improvement in that. And I think that the upfront dates and all the information that's needed right from day one, well in advance as well.
I think that leads really nicely on to the next topic around how we actually maintain relationships once we've actually got things off the ground. I think one of our experiences, I'm sure it's good for a lot of people, is a change of head is a really pivotal point in that relationship. It might be good to hear a bit about that, but I'm going to hand over now to Hannah to share the next couple of sections.
Thank you. One question just come into my head on the back of people saying, I feel like I'm quite strong sitting here being like, yeah, this is what Action Tutoring offers, this is what we do. And then you like put me in front of like a head teacher or something, and I'm like, am I gonna go, actually, you should go speak to Reach Out. Has anyone done that? Has anyone been like in a, is that like something that people feel comfortable doing?
Definitely, we get a lot. So our mentoring that we do is focused very much around character education, character development. So although we do the academics, we do maths and English, but we are not a tutoring organisation. If we meet a school who say, actually what we really need is tutoring for our year sixes, we're going to say, go to Action Tutoring and speak to Hannah, because like Pete said before, we're not going to sort of budge on the character development side of things. That's the big focus for us.
Yeah.
And also you mentioned the relationships and the long-term mentoring relationships that the school say to us, we have the intervention for a month or once a month for the entire year. It's a weekly program. It has to be for the entire year.
We are aware of what we're trying to offer schools, and we know the sector a little bit. So where schools were looking for something very different, or just different focus, like the typical thing is year 10, 11s coming out to GCSEs, we want tutoring interventions, supporting maths particularly. That's not reach out. So we don't even try and, we do our best to signpost organisations that we think can meet the needs of their pupils, because that's all the same thing.
Yeah, definitely. And it feels like that's an line which, again, I reflect on myself, like to be able to actually spend the time to go instead of just saying, maybe speak to reach out, maybe like sending an email when we come back to that kind of like word of mouth and go, actually these are people who are doing what you want and here's the introduction that gives you an in straight away. That's interesting, thank you. Yeah, I'm going back to kind of so I started action tutoring as a program coordinator, so going into the schools in Bristol and kind of set up all the programs and communicate with other schools. So I'm digging back into those memories. And this next bit, it'd be interesting to hear about. It might be kind of going on to a point over there about, it'd be interesting to hear about how people maintain relationships with SLT and that kind of thing. It feels to me like there's this kind of split between maintaining relationships at that level, at a higher level within the school, and kind of that kind of buy-in, and then the kind of communication and the actual kind of running of your program, right? This is the detail that you need to know doing that. So it would be interesting to kind of hear maybe some examples of either from people from schools about how you've stayed in touch with each other in positive ways. So thinking about things like, for instance, how often does that communication take place? Because I think we're trying to like get a balance of not bombarding with all those emails that everyone's got to read. And whether, is it an email, is it face-to-face, what's better, and kind of starting to, so Vivian's got like an example of like, how an effective way of staying in touch with each other once the program's up and running and not just going, thank God we got that up and running, fingers crossed it works.
And who is it between?
Yeah. So we, at the beginning, it's part of the expectation setting, is we say we have to have a minimum of contact in a sort of a safeguarding capacity. We have to have a point teacher, or member of staff, and have to be a teacher, and we have to have a senior leadership team contact as well, and that's a minimum expectation as part of the setting of the programme. So that the point person, the point teacher, is involved in all the inductions of the girls, bringing the girls to sessions, and so that's a really regular communication between our programme staff and that number of staff. Minimum once a month, but usually more often than that. With the senior teachers, we say that where we come and give the midterm report and the end of year report, is part of the expectation that is the senior leadership. Often because they've got the budget right, so they're signing it off, but we expect them to be there. And for us, that's a way of maintaining that relationship with the senior member of staff as well. And I think because you set that expectation at the beginning, it generally works okay. Of course, there are hiccups, but that's really helped us.
When we set up a relationship with the school, we ask for an operational lead, also like a career leader that we can have day-to-day contact with, and a strategic lead that's going to champion it for SLT. So we're not in contact with that person too much. But actually, having heard what everyone was saying, I think we need to have more contact with head teachers because of referrals and because of them having more involvement. Lots of schools will run the programme really successfully, but the head teacher doesn't know too much about it. So I'd be interested to hear how charities let the heads know.
It depends on the school though, because we've got an executive head teacher who can't live today, that's why I'm here. He entrusts his senior leadership teams around him to go and have those meetings, and it's about our communication with yourselves, our communication with the other senior leaders, to our teaching teams. For example, tutoring program currently got running at the moment for us. Buy-in it's quite fair at the moment, but it's reliant upon myself as a raising standards lead across the school to meet with my point of contact, and it is like Chris is so good. It's like Chris was saying, I have my immediate point of contact, and that is who I speak to every month. So I'm not bombarded as a full-time teacher, raising standards leader across 3 form, 4 form entry primary school, and full-time year 6 teacher. So it doesn't bombard me once a month, and then I have my information passed back on to my deputy head teacher, and then to my teaching team and associate teaching team as well. I think it's important, really, like I was saying, have those communications with the heads and executives. They're not the ones that are actually going to be delivering it. They're not the ones that are actually going to be your point of contacts. They'll be the one to get put through the door, but then they entrust their ever-growing, expanding, especially the multi-academy trusts, ever-expanding senior leadership team, who will then take on further responsibilities to actually support charities and do the work with you. It won't be necessarily executives or heads, it will be the senior leadership or middle leadership teams that are now having more responsibilities in the school. So it's okay saying, get you put through the door with your heads, great, then it's who you're speaking to next.
And I think sometimes you put through the door can actually come from a teacher rather than from a senior leader. And certainly in some schools, many schools, they're ready to listen to what teachers say as well as leadership.
That head teacher might well be kind of setting the weather for, is that school very outward facing, does lots of partnerships. I tend to find I do a lot of kind of school visits. Certain schools, we're doing this and we're doing that and we're doing this for the museum and we've got this charity, you know, and there's a real appetite in the school for that kind of activity, and the head will talk you through it because, you know, it's outward facing, there's PR for the school and these kinds of things, and actually they are quite aware of those things. And they've also sanctioned that, you know, as you say, really squeezed senior leadership team can take some time to communicate with those organisations, given their impact stats, potentially at the same time when they're doing other things in the school. I think they need knowledge of how it's going to fit into the ecosystem of everything else that's going on.
Yeah. The three quick things from my perspective. The first is, I think there are two areas where having a point of contact who just then passes you on to another point of contact makes it pointless for you not just to go direct. One is finance, the other is data. So if you can appoint instead of having to go through the lead teacher each time, who then just passes you on to the data manager or the person responsible for finance, if you can get those 2 points of contact direct, so that you're essentially taking out one of the unnecessary links in the chain. And this idea of taking out links in the chain is a really important thing for us. Sending large amounts of information over email simply doesn't work. It's not the way in which teachers are used to communicate. It's not that. So what we've done is that information is on an online, the information that we need to get back from the schools on online portals. So the emails are simply a reminder to log onto that portal and see what is outstanding, so that lead teacher feels like they're in complete control of the things that they need to do and understand it without feeling that. And it's an emotional pressure of receiving long emails when you're busy from an organisation that you really do want to engage with, but you just simply don't have the headspace to. If you can control the way in which they feel about it by kind of putting that slightly off the email and making sure that they understand that they can do it in their own time, then I think that's a really helpful way of maintaining the relationship. And the third thing, sorry to go back to your wisdom again, is that there is, generally speaking, I feel, in establishing the relationships and in promoting programs, an underinvestment, both in terms of the charity's financial resource, but also its time in describing the program, in talking through logistics. It is the unglamorous element of what we do, for sure. But the amount of reassurance it gives schools to see that you've thought really carefully about how this thing's actually just going to happen, even if you're confident yourself that it is, and therefore you don't feel like it needs to be said. Over communication in terms of logistics, I think, is a really important feature of making teachers feel like they can relax in the partnership. And I think sometimes as the third sector, as we get better at logistics ourselves, we sometimes underestimate how important that is to our partners.
Have you got an example of the kinds of things that you sort of overstate?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I have tons. You know, things like making sure that the tutor that comes to the school has a copy of the dress policy of the school, identifying, not just telling a school that they need to drop their kids off at the university, but identifying the precise point on the map where the coach can stop, identifying for the coach driver where the coach can then park, and explaining that if you need I remember myself as an employee of the Marine Club in the early days, driving out to a lay-by off the M40 to give a coach driver a pile of £1 coins because I knew the machine had broken down in the place in which the coach driver parked. And these things are as valuable to schools as some of the language that I think as charities we get used to describing our work for funders. And I think making there's an important distinction of the kind of stuff which seems important in the first meeting for schools, and the kind of stuff which is important from that point on, which is making sure that you're reassuring your partners that you've taken the minutiae of making this thing happen on the ground seriously.
And it strikes me that we've spoken about, if we've taken all our learning from setting up the relationship really well, and then, I'm not bombarding Matthew with a massive email, and I've learned these lessons, and Matthew is, very engaged and responds and does exactly what I want. That's perfect, right? That's great. But in times where, I've set up a relationship and I've done that really effectively, and I'm feeling quite confident about what's going on, and then, maybe I'm not getting back what I need from the school, and that, it's not following this kind of ideal path. Does anyone have any kind of thoughts or examples about how, I guess, like the methods of communication, or how do you communicate in a way to kind of try and get that back on track in a way that doesn't make you feel like you are just hassling or sending an email or doing things like that?
So we have frequent meetings with our partner schools, or steering committee meetings, where we'll discuss what's going on in that partnership as a partnership. So it's not kind of you didn't do, we didn't do. It's kind of here's all the stuff that needs to happen, what's going on, and framing it in that way we found is really helpful to make it a genuinely collaborative problem-solving exercise rather than it becoming play. And it's a kind of positive way for people to engage. Be like, okay, what do we need to do? Clearly it doesn't always work out as well, but that like trying to set it up in that way I think has been quite helpful. And clear expectations as well. That's what those sessions are for.
How often would those meetings?
Totally.
I think it is recognising that I've experienced this as a governor. We've had a long-standing partnership with a relationship with an organisation, and there was a point at which we weren't happy with the quality of what we were getting from that organisation. We were paying, they were providing, and it was quite a big deal actually for the head and everybody to go, well, actually, we're going to go back and say, if we don't get this, this, and this, we're not going to continue paying. And that almost felt quite hard to do as a school, as opposed to just be kind of grateful for volunteers and support and these sorts of things. So I guess making that dialogue regular makes it easier to have it.
Yeah. And from like a school's perspective, how would people feel like, because it's hard. I've been a teacher as well, right? I've been there, and I know it's busy, but like, what is it? A model like Nathan described, that kind of like trying to come together and feel like, okay, it's once a term. I know a meeting's coming up, and we feel like we can bring stuff up as well as maybe reviewing what
is structured in a way that there is no blame.
Yeah.
Because actually, everyone's there for a commonality and the common goal of a child. You're there to ensure that child's life chances are enhanced. As long as you are all under that agreement, then actually there is no real blame to be apportioned. It's more a case of, well, how can we develop it further? So I look at my teaching team, for example. There's no way I say to them, you're not doing good enough. It's more a case of, well, actually, how can we work on this together to develop it further? Same with internal partnerships and external partnerships. How can we do it together? It's not Nathan, you said you were going to do this for me, you didn't X, Y, Z. Well, okay, well, maybe it was the child wasn't necessarily feeling that they could have done it in that way. So the child didn't pass their maths GCSE. Well, maybe there's something else that was going on that maybe the school didn't look at. It's not just Nathan's fault. They were providing the maths services for me. Or maybe it's something else that we didn't look at as a school. So it is actually looking robustly at everything that's happened around those children, as opposed to it just didn't work.
Yeah.
Because you can't just say it just didn't work. It's didn't delve into it.
Yeah.
If you're paying money into something, then you're going to want to know A, why it didn't work, B, how can you make it even better? Because actually, if you've got a long-standing partnership, whether it be through well-being of children, whether it be for tutoring of children, it's more important to ensure that well-grounded partnership doesn't break down, and you enhance it and make it even better. Because it might have been that it just didn't work that time. You're not going to say to a child, "You got 5 out of 6 right, we didn't get that one right, so you complete fail." No, that doesn't work, does it? It's more a case of that one amount will happen. So what you're going to do to make it even better from that one.
I think this underlines the need for that relationship at senior level in the school as well. and the general, positive relationships generally, but underline that partnership, but that strategic relationship with somebody who's senior in that school organisation that can help get the wheels back on if it looks like they're falling off. And I think we've experienced that in school where perhaps something's been, we've been doing some work and perhaps an organisation's got back in touch saying, can we just touch base on this? And, maybe it sounds like something hasn't quite gone to plan, but we can then carefully get it back on track. We've experienced it from the other side as well. We did a SIG project within our map, which meant working with a number of partner schools, excellent trust. And I don't think you've quite foreseen some of the challenges along the way that might occur if there were changes in leadership in schools. So I think that's something to be really mindful of that can be quite tricky, where perhaps a project that we were undertaking in partnership had the full support of perhaps a head or a CEO, but then there was a change of head or CEO, and actually that was where the relationships were really key, either at senior level or the people that we've been engaging with at a delivery, more operational level, because actually you have to go in, you have to sit down, you almost have to start again with building that relationship. Here's the reasons behind what we're doing, here was the impact that we were hoping to achieve, here was the alignment. And if you've got relationships at different levels, that can help to get things back on track if something falls off somewhere within them.
Well documented, so for example, your evaluation forms within the schools, as long as you're showing that it's had impact, then obviously then you look back on that as a proposed head when you're coming into the school, making sure that you've looked over the last 2 or 3 years, what's made an impact, what has shown an increase in the maths GCSE levels, what's made SATs go from 42% to 93%. Is it a cohort issue? Is it because of external agencies you've had coming in and the support that we have working with us? I would like to assume that proposed heads would come in and look at those things before they're going to take over a school. Look at the development plans or what is it the school needs to improve on. I think, a lot of charities and organisations we've got sat around this table, if you look within a school development plan or a school's improvement plan, you're going to be able to target a lot clearer where you're going to make an improvement. Because it's on that, the schools have no choice but to say, do you know what, actually, yes, we will look at what you're offering to us because that is going to have an impact. For example, girls' girls' English literature results are going down the pan, but what is it that's not working for those girls? Is it a location? Is it something that's happening within them? Is it something you can target and come in? Because schools have to publish their development plans and their or improvement plans. They have to. It has to be out there, so it's targeting those as well.
It's a really good point. I like, we can all tell when there's a flurry of pens suddenly. So, I know when you said that, Matthew.
On their websites.
And it actually ties to the last point, which was then fantastic work sequence times, if that's the one, everybody. Which is about how charities and schools work together in evaluating the impact of a programme. And I think I'm gonna turn myself to mentoring for that. And I'm kind of interested to hear a little bit about maybe like the kind of information that you share with schools, how that's presented maybe as well. And then maybe if this time we'll talk a little bit about like I guess like how that gets collected, almost like the logistics of that and that actually happens. Is that right to throw it this way?
Sure.
Yeah. So in terms of I'll skip a bit about how, but in terms of what we provide to schools at the end of the year to sort of demonstrate impact. Well, one thing we've started to do a lot more this academic year in particular is ask schools, what do you want to see? What exactly are you looking for? As much as our programme can't be changed in terms of the fact that we're going to focus on character development, but what does that mean to you? What sort of stats are you going to be looking at the end of the year? And that's really helpful. But then what we sort of produce in the form of a report to school will show everything from attendance, which is really key to school because our programme is after school. We'll look at changes in behaviour that we ask schools to provide us, and changes in academic attainment as well. And that seems to be kind of all the main parts of the programme that affect schools and that they're looking to provide all of that in the form of a lovely report that if they wanted to give to their governors they can, and if they want to show to parents they can. So
we've got a board of trustees that would be desperate to find out any information as to what anything we're having in the school has. So yes, nothing glossy.
Can I stop? Wants to go
I
next.
just want to add a little bit. So in terms of how, there are some challenges here in that we ask teachers to give us start of the year and end of the year feedback on every child on a range of factors to do with character, communication, confidence, and so on. That works really well for us in terms of giving back. But then there's a challenge which comes around academic data and getting the data back from school so that we can then package it back up and send it back to the school to show them this is the change it's had for the kids that you referred into our cohort. That's probably one of our bigger challenges around data, is getting the academic data from the school in a timely, consistent format that we can then send back to them and show them, here are your kids, here's how they grew in terms of personal development, here's how they grew in terms of academic attainment. So that's the only thing I thought was worth adding. And I'd be interested to talk to Chris about the portal.
Yeah.
Because I had dreams of a portal, but they got shut down.
But these actual dreams.
Yeah,
probably.
So yeah, we do the same in terms of an impact report and have qualitative and quantitative data. I think it's really important to also, some of the most powerful things are before and after quotes, especially with the children that have done our programme that have worked really well. We've also obviously got parent permission, so we've videoed some interview questions. Oh, and to clarify, what we did was interview children before and after the programme, but also got parent focus groups, teacher surveys, spoke to the teachers, and that's the way we've kind of done it, and had an impact report that is useful, short, and kind of shows the impact that we've kind of delivered in the classroom, that they can show to their trustees or add to their newsletter if they want to talk to their parents about.
So it sounds like enough variety of formats and things you can almost like pick and choose and go like this bit of there.
Yeah.
And then is that similar for
Fairly
yours?
similar, actually, because we're an online mentoring organisation. Naturally, like about interaction, these types of conversations. So we can report back on those. We do surveys of students before and after the programmes to knowledge acquisition. We're probably a little bit more bespoke than many of the organisations who speak here. So we have our own impact framework that we'll talk about after the schools about it. They're developed as well. We'll also track those through those surveys, and also we do the policy statement as well with the students, with the mentors, with the teachers, with the access. So again, we go through data so we can produce the fullest possible format for the schools and tailor insofar as we can to the schools.
But Joe, did you find like there was similarities when you were asking schools then, you know, like that you were getting very similar things back, or did you find like, oh, actually this school wants something really different from this school?
We haven't found major differences. I think the biggest issue really is just around how and when we ask for the information and when they can get it back to us and that kind of thing really. So there's not really kind of any, we've not found many major issues in kind of, there's not any differences.
Yeah.
One of the things that helped us in terms of actually getting the data was tying the data collection into things we were doing anyway with the school. So for example, with the students, we're running an induction with them anyway, so we'll tie in the data collection with that. Or we've got a meeting with the teacher, so we'll sit down and get the data from the teacher while they're there. It doesn't always work, but often it does, and it just saves time if you're already there and able to do something.
Yeah, that works really brilliantly for us at the start of the academic year in particular. So where we're having a lot of vulnerable young people referred to our programme, and so we sit down with the teachers when we're talking about logistics and all those other things, and then we'll talk about the individual young people to get the kind of what we call referral data about those young people. That works brilliantly.
I'd be interested to hear maybe from like from the school's perspective about if there is, I don't know, certain things that are more important than others. If it is like give us a range of stuff and then we can kind of pick and choose to, potentially different audiences within the school that are more interested in, this is the hard academic data, this is the most important thing, or a quote or a video or something like that. It'd be interesting to hear if that's from schools whether people.
And can I add a bit to it?
Yeah, sure.
I think it's really interesting. We talk about, so I'm a governor of the school, we talk about they're looking for the impact of interventions. So we can see the impact on our young people. The problem is that we generally don't have access to the broad data set in the whole school. So we can't then usually position, for example, academic attainment of our young people compared to the school average or the year average or even the cohort average, depending on how we designed it. So that's quite hard for us. So all we can do is say, this is what we've noticed, this is what you've told us, and this is what the kids are telling us, and this is all really positive. But then the school might come back and say, it's not the impact we were looking for. We don't, it's very hard for us to say, well, you know, how? Yeah, so that's just one thing. And how would a school gauge that? Like, do they take our data and then do a comparative analysis across the entire year cohort, or do they like just fudge it? I don't know. Because that's quite hard. It's not an easy thing to do.
So, I suppose it depends on the individual school. So if I was working with a partnership, we're quite transparent in the fact that we do within year data drops across the schools. Depends which other school you work with, depends, you know, which trust you're working within. Standard process, you do data drops within the school year. I have no fear in sharing, because I'm not sharing a child's name, I'm not sharing the individual child's progress. I'm just saying this is an overarching thing. This is what we're doing. I've got no worries across any of that sort of trust to say, actually, you know, we've looked at data in December. This is an area we're working on. This is a reading area. It's really not looking quite good for our year sixes at the moment. How can we steer some of the data programs? Is it that we've got some children that have some vulnerability issues? We're very keen on working within mental health and wellbeing within our year sixes in particular, and then working down the school as well. The amount of copious pressure that we would happily say to, well, actually, you know what, across our cohort, 96 in one school, 120 in another, mental health wellbeing is an issue that's coming up. That's something that is coming through the forefront. It's the transparency that you set up with the school at the beginning of the year, and at the beginning of the partnership, that you would say, you know, what is it that is actually the issue? Is it the reading? Is it the maths? Is it the writing? There's no point in us not giving you the data and saying, you know, actually, do you know what? It's our pupil premium children that are not achieving expected standard in maths. Or how are you going to be able to tailor your support and what you can give us to support that? It's actually more beneficial for the schools to give you their data than to not. Because actually, you need to be able to say, well, this is what we're struggling with, this is where we need your help, this is where we need your guidance and your expertise above and beyond what we can give as a school. So actually, it's setting up that expectation we were discussing at the beginning of this conversation, right at the beginning, an hour and a half ago. Here are the clear guidelines of what we want to set out. Here is what we want to achieve. Should be on your school development plan or school improvement plan. This is what we want. This is what we would like from you. Can you deliver it? No. Okay. Thank you for everything. You might as well leave. Can you offer it for us? Great. Excellent. We'll stay with you. You know, we're all sat around the table because actually, if we were to waste half an hour to an hour of time, that's half an hour you can spend in the school. You're going to make a difference. Because again, fundamentally, you're there for the children. And if you're not going to benefit our children, no disrespect, if you're not going to benefit our children, then there's probably a school down the road that you will. So it's better for us to share that data during those points of the year, at the beginning of the year. You can access any school's data at the end of the year anyway. It has to be publicised. It's national statistics, you have to have them on there. So you can access school's data, but it is from the previous years. You have to be mindful that cohorts will change. Our year sixes are very different this year than they were last year, and they're very different the year before. So it does change, but you can see a trend over a 5-year period of time, and will hopefully target that, your provision to that audience.
I think it's problematic to take a leap that your mentoring has necessarily impacted on whatever academic, you know, because they could have had a different maths teacher, they could have been a different set. You don't know, and you probably never will know, because that's not your problem and your business, unless somebody wants to make it part of their job to see what your impact has been. So I think if you have evidence that those young people are coming, you know, are coming to school more relaxed and they're enjoying lessons more, and they are turning up more, things like that, actually, that's more your job, you know, not really the maths or the English. If you're doing about their well-being, then you could just look at things like the teachers feel that they're happier, you know, that kind of thing. Or we use something called Skills Builder, the website where you measure things like listening skills, so your tutors would know if they're listening better, you know, aiming high, being positive. So when we do projects that seem like yours, like well-being projects, that's what we would use to measure rather than seeing if it's impacted on their stats results, because like, it could literally be anything that's impacted on their stats results. You know, so keep it specific to what you're actually trying to do. And then, you know, you should be very proud that children are more feeling happier to come into school, because that will impact, but you might not be able to measure that from where you are outside the
Especially during that you measure it through your attendance.
Yeah, attendance would be a really good one.
We've had an issue over the last few years with terms where we've enhanced the program for wellbeing, and attendance is just going up.
Yeah,
so actually, you are looking at that target audience, whether it's maths, English, or wellbeing.
Yeah, and maybe even attendance with other after-school clubs. So say you talk to some of your young people, do they enjoy music, and then would they like to join a music club and see if they have actually done that kind of thing. So maybe a broader range of what's changed for them rather than.
Yeah. I think we have a lot of, well, I would say we have probably all of this stuff. But I think the interesting bit for us is that you're suggesting that we might be able to encourage schools to share data with us more.
Set it from the outset.
Yeah, I think that's
a ground rules that this is what you're going to use it for. Yeah. And you're not going to be using it left, right, centre, and it's targeted just for those children that you're working with in design.
It feels like it's definitely, I think as you said, like you kind of like cycled back around to that like start of the partnership, and in actually that feels that that's a really valuable conversation to have at the start, is in saying kind of what are you going to be looking at in a year when we're doing this review meeting? And I think sometimes I've been guilty of kind of guessing and being like, I know I'm going to bring a nice report to you and this is how I'm going to show it, but actually you might be thinking something else. So it's kind of worth, I think, as people said, kind of externalizing those thoughts.
Sorry, just something about pupil premium.
Yeah, sure.
Because I think that could be a really useful way to talk to whoever is responsible in school for reporting on that and their strategy and what they're trying to demonstrate. And that's an area that governors absolutely have to look at. So again, if you're trying to engage that audience and feedback to them, just looking at how the school is articulating what they're doing with the pupil premium, where their priorities are. And that's where you can have that financial difference or resource implication.
Just demonstrate. Sorry, go ahead. Just if you can demonstrate the impact of pupil premium, schools really love that because they support with it, and it saves them.
And you
doing some work.
That's the point.
Yeah.
Even if you can't demonstrate the impact, simply by disaggregating the performance of pupil premium kids from the others takes you once. I'm sorry to be so relentlessly pragmatic, but that shouldn't be that hard for the charity to do. It's a complete pain for the teachers have to go and work it out themselves. So, and that's true of the PVG in Wales and the People Equity Fund in Scotland as well. For all of our impact reports, we have a page where we just simply disaggregate the data so that the schools don't have to. And then just two other very brief things. That I think that sometimes there's a temptation with impact reports that go to specific schools to jump straight to the micro analysis of what's happened in that particular school. Actually, teachers are really sophisticated in terms of their understanding of research and data. So if you have evidence that the program works overall through an RCT, through a match control group analysis, share it so that that person becomes an internal advocate for the program in the school. Don't feel like that's not relevant because it isn't necessarily about what specifically happened in that context. And then the final thing, as far as I'm concerned, is that anything that we can do as charities to help contextualize the data that we're giving enables, again, the lead teacher to explain the program to others. Now, the way in which we do that is we provide a comparison. There's two things. We've got some data which has nationally validated tests sitting next to it, so you can see, well, this is what a pupil from anywhere would get on this question, and here's what the pupil from your school. More challenging in some respects is that we sit the data from the particular intervention in the school alongside the national and the regional averages. And that means that half of the schools that we work with are seeing that something isn't going as well as it has elsewhere. But I think that that's a really useful mechanism for engendering the conversations that you were describing. So this isn't going, this could clearly go better. Let's have a sit down and a discussion about it. And that was a really scary step for us to say, we are going to do that in every single impact report. But what I think we were pleasantly surprised how receptive teachers were to understanding that there was a reason for that, and it actually helped them contextualise how the individual programme sat within the broader context of how the programme was running elsewhere.
Thank you very much. I made the mistake of saying I was bang on time, and now I'm 4 minutes late. So
done really well.
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. But,
it sort of sounds like we could carry on this conversation, but we did say we'd try and wrap up by 5. But I don't think we're going to get straight out of the room.
No,
and there's still plenty of cake and biscuits that we would love you to eat before you leave. So if you are able to stay, then please do stay around to continue the conversations. I want to say a massive thank you for giving up your time. I know you're all incredibly busy people, but it's been a really, really stimulating and interesting discussion. As Hannah said, fantastic to see people scribbling down. So I'm hopeful that that's everyone is going away with a new or fresh thought or a new idea that you might be able to take away from today's discussion. And as I said at the beginning, it's about that ultimate aim for all of them is to try and benefit the children and the young people that we're working with. And that was why we were so keen to bring everyone together to have this conversation, so that hopefully we can be as impactful as possible for those young people that we're all together working with. CfEY have been very busy at the back, meeting away. They're also going to be producing a report from today's event that we will be publishing on the Action Tutoring website, and we will email you when that's available so that you've got a copy of it, and we'd love you to share that widely as well. And if you are on Twitter, I think the hashtag was school partners. If you want to pick up some of the conversation that's been going on online, we'd love you to share some of your thoughts so that others who weren't in the room can perhaps benefit from some of these reflections. And I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't put in a little plug for Action Tutoring at the end. We have got lots of lovely literature and our impact reports over here. As was very clear in the conversation, word of mouth is the most powerful way to recruit new schools. We are, as an organisation, looking to grow. We'd love to take on new primary and secondary schools in the cities we're working in. So if you know schools that might benefit from us, please do spread the word to them. And equally, for schools, there are many other fantastic organisations here tackling all sorts of different issues. Mentoring Corner, got higher education with that. Higher achievers with the Actors Project and Brilliant Club over in that corner. So if it would be helpful for you to have some conversations before you leave to find out more about some of these other organisations as well, then please do so. But I think, Alex, did you want to say some final things about your video before we wrap up?
Very briefly, if that's okay. Thanks ever so much. That was super interesting. I'm trying to get as much of it down on the Twitter feed as possible, and I hope I've done it justice, but lots of really great points. The live stream will be saved onto our YouTube channel, so if you want to go back and watch it again, you can find it on there, and you can share it with anybody else, any colleagues or partners that who might be interested. I'd be really grateful if anyone has a couple of minutes before they have to dash off and would be willing just to come and have a quick chat to me about what you thought was good about the event today, or any other feedback in terms of things we could improve next time. That would be super helpful. I do know you're busy, but if you could just spare 2 minutes, that'd be lovely. And another plug from us too as well. There's a CfEY sheet on the back table to sign up to our newsletter if you haven't already, and we'd love if you could be involved. So thanks so much.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, everybody.